me interrupt for a second. If you see something that can potentially harm a child in the woods or on a rural property, you let everybody know. No matter how bizarre it sounds, you share that news, that experience with every single person in that community. It is absolutely irresponsible to keep that information hidden from your family or community. All right? Don't be scared. You seen that shit, you share that shit. Period. Okay? It's very, very important. It's very irresponsible to see a major predator like that and keep it secret from especially families with children that live rural, okay? You share that knowledge no matter how bizarre it is. Sorry, but obviously I feel very strongly about that. Back in the man cave. What the hell? Been a while, hasn't it? Back in the cave. For 1.5 days only, maybe. Pouring rain, July, and we actually used the hot tub last night to warm up. Whatever, had a couple hot days out there in the ocean, but anyway, interesting few days. A little bit of misfortune I had while the wildlife biologists were on shore. I was busy keeping the boat in position for support for hours. Ooh, there's an explosion. For like a couple hours at a time, whatever. And so what I did was I put the GoPro on the dash and I just got as many emails shared as I possibly could to utilize that time instead of sitting on my ass, right? And of course, then all I would have had to done is come home, throw the SD card in the edit, blast them all out to you guys. Left the SD card on the boat. Attaboy. Damn it. Oh, that sucks. And I will try to get the video with our First Nation hero ladies that came over. I'll try to get that video edited up. It's gonna take a while because it's like almost 3 hours of conversation that I gotta go through. 3 hours. Well, worth it, but it's time that is almost non-existent right now. What else? I could ramble on forever about a whole pile of stuff. Here's something I thought about. I just had a thought the other day on the boat when I cracked open an email, because sometimes, like when I'm halibut fishing or some places offshore, I get good reception, and I can check my emails while I'm sitting there waiting for the fish to chomp on. And I've had a few emails of people that feel compelled to go out of the way to email me to tell me that a certain email shared was bullshit. They're lying. Okay. Or they'll go out of their way to email me and tell me that, you know, the majority of these people are just glory seekers. They just want their 2 minutes of fame. They're lying. There's a lot of people out there that are really bullshitting on this channel. And then it got me thinking about it. I'm like, man, if you actually feel compelled to go out of your way to email someone to make that statement, my God, those people's time must be absolutely choked when they watch mainstream news. So, and that made me think, it'd be interesting, maybe even possibly throw it down in the comment section below, what the ratio is. What do you think it is? How much bullshit, if it actually came to bullshit contributions to your eyes and ears from anywhere, I would be willing to bet this channel, I'm going to say, has 95% more factual information than any other mainstream news outlet that pummels bullshit into you daily. That's what I would guess, and I'm probably being conservative. What do you guys think? So if you were to actually seek out, find a channel, a source of news, information, knowledge, today it's available to us, put this channel against mainstream news channels. Pick any one of them. I don't give a shit which one it is. Pick one. And actually try to figure out what the ratio is. Where are you going to get your most honest information from, and what's the ratio of bullshit? I'd be willing to say I strongly, firmly believe that any mainstream news outlet has probably 90 to 95% bullshit being delivered nonstop, whereas I believe firmly that this channel possibly has 95% truth delivered to you. So there you go. So to all you people out there who feel upset or compelled to email and complain about how many emails you may think are bullshit on this channel, maybe you should go have a sit down with some mainstream news for a few hours and then start emailing away. Right? What else for a little bit of a coffee and a half ramble this morning? When I get a chance, or if I can't sleep, I'm actually looking at 4 deer right now out the door. When I can, what I normally do, like say late at night, or if I wake up in the middle of the night, I can't sleep, or I'm doing something where I have some reception, I put on the earbuds and I listen to people that I've come across online talking. And what I have found recently is, like, since I just came home yesterday, and I thought I would put the earbuds in and listen to something, and straight up honest, this is what I'm finding, is the more I listen to all of the people, it's making it very tough for me to find something online worthy of my time to listen to. And that's just me. But that's what I found. I honestly realized that just last night. I'm like, I just don't have, it's just not gripping me. What people are talking about on but other channels. I was looking to a couple YouTube channels, or on the Rumble channel, listening to various people, and my interest has really been dropping. I'm finding it very tough to find a source to listen to with my time, and I feel it is absolutely because of the time that I spent listening to all the people, which I've always said since day one is your number one source of true, honest knowledge and power. And yeah, that's the effect that it's having on me. It's listening to the people is making it it's making it very hard for me to listen to other sources. I'm not kidding. I'm skipping over channels or people that I was previously listening to, and it just doesn't have my interest. It's not getting me, it's just not gripping me enough to go there. And I was wondering why, and the only answer I come up with is because of the people. That's why. My attention is really on these emails more than a lot. I'm babbling. Anyway, I don't know how many other people out there follow this channel and have the same feelings. I don't know, but I'll tell you what, that's what the effect this is having on me. The bullshit is crystal clear, way more crystal clear now than it was to me, say, 3-4 years ago. And it's all because of listening to the people. It's true. Now, I because of my cluster with sharing emails on the boat and leaving that SD card, it's made it very confusing what may or may not have been read. And if I can't find that SD card, I actually have to go back in my notes, try to figure out what day that was, and then try to figure out which emails it was that I shared on that SD card that I lost, to make sure that those people's voices don't get lost. And that's important to me. And that's going to be a bit of a cluster. So fingers crossed I find that SD card. All right, now listen to this. This is titled Sighting. I'm writing you because I spent my whole life in the woods, from an infant running trap lines with my father. As an adult, I live off the land and teach others how to as well. On YouTube, Nature's Wild Playground, the three of us set out on a hike in the mountains with no camera gear with us. Almost 2 hours later, we reached the top of the mountain. My son and my fiance decided to climb down the side of the mountain. I stayed on top and walked the fingers, as we call them. I got a hold of my fiance on our walkie-talkies. Better safe than sorry, we use them and when we aren't near one another. Needless to say, I got bored and walked the main ridge, slowly taking pictures with my phone for a group we have. I started to get creeped out. I said to myself, I'm going back to the car. At this point, I reached out to my fiance, telling him checkpoints he would know. I got to the waterfalls and told him I'm at that part of the mountain that I can see the waterfalls on either side. I'm going back to the car. As I sat there waiting for the response, I heard small sticks breaking around me. What logical explanation could this be? I thought to myself, deer, squirrel, or even a bear. The smell in the air changed and smelled worse than a wet bear. I pulled out my knife, the only form of protection I had, and tied it to my mountain scrub pants. If this is a bear, it isn't going to do much. Then I heard a huge branch snap in half. At this point, I'm still trying to think logical, but that is about out the door, because I am creeped out at this point. My fiance's voice pops in my head, the keeper of the mountain. I hear no birds for an hour or so. Everywhere I looked, it seemed there were orange newts, aka salamanders. And again, we did have torrential downpour for 3 days. That could easily be why. I reached out to my fiance again, and he finally answered me. I told him, I'm going back to the car. Him, I'm on my way to come and get you. Me, I'm at the falls. Him, stay there, I'm on my way to you. Me, okay. I started towards him so we could meet up faster. 30 minutes later, I met up with him. My first question was, where's my son? Him, I know where he is and he's okay. I told him, no, there's something out there with us, and it's not an epping black bear. Him, it's the keeper of the mountain, meaning Sasquatch. Let's go get my son. Now at this point, I'm creeped out and nervous. I told my fiance, how could you leave him alone? My son is 19 and knows what to do in a survival situation, so either over-concerned or overthinking things. Him, I wouldn't leave him unless I knew he was safe. He's on a flat terrain. I'm walking through creeks at this point, which isn't smart, but I don't care at this point. On the way back, I saw something or someone down in the valley. I yelled my son's name because he normally wears a black hoodie. My son stands 6'4". I watched it turn around and look at me. All I saw was black. I reached for my phone after I unfroze. By the time it went behind a yellow birch and it was gone. It walked on 2 legs and was very tall. I talked to my Theo about this experience and my fiance. They both told me Sasquatch many weeks later, and it feels like yesterday. I'll never forget this. But I wanted to share this with everyone. I'm in upstate New York, and you are more than welcome to use my first name or my YouTube channel. Thank you for your time and posting your email at the end of your videos. Love your channel. All right, thanks for that email. I hope I didn't read it. Hope I didn't butcher it too badly. And welcome to the club of no return, right? And it's interesting your fiance knew exactly what was going on. You might want to See if you can drag some more information out of him, right? And another one joins the Club of No Return. They weren't invited and didn't look for it, and they got added to the Club of No Return no matter what. Now there's no way out. You're stuck with us forever. Thanks for that email. There's another one titled An Odd Night. Hi Steve, here's a story for you. One of my 3 that I can't explain. It's 2010. I was employed as a seasonal wilderness ranger. My primary responsibility was to enforce U.S. wilderness standards and to reestablish a wilderness trail route that had been mostly lost due to long-term lack of maintenance. The area I was assigned to was dominated by dense chaparral, much of which had burned some years prior, and the new region was thick, thorny, and dotted with the fire-hardened bones of the previous cohort, mostly impassable, truly nasty stuff. The drive time was long and the hike-in got longer and longer as the trail work progressed. I eventually opted out for an 8-day, 6-day off schedule. I would spike out for the duration of my on time. I was young, healthy, alone, unarmed, with the exception of a Bendix King radio, and I loved it. I had a cache established near the top of the mountain with tools and water. The first day of 8 would consist of showing up to work, taking care of administrative tasks, then driving out to the work site and hiking in. On this occasion, I made it to the cache a little early and was doing some trail grading with a hand tool, digging in the dirt. Hadn't made it far when I hit a ground nest and was stung multiple times in the hands, neck, and face. It hurt. I'm not allergic, but I received so many stings that my face started to swell and my eyes were mostly swollen shut. I was pissed, but undeterred. I rapidly set up spike, took some Benadryl from my first aid kit, and settled in for what would turn out to be one of the longest nights of my life. Probably that's not familiar with what spike means. Spike means spiking out to a smaller camp from your original camp. Okay? We do that all the time up north. I don't remember what time it started, shortly after dark maybe. I was lying under my tarp feeling sorry for myself, but still determined to see my trip through. The spot I ended up in was a saddle, something I would usually avoid due to the high winds. Designated wilderness on one side and an Indian reservation on the other, approximately 7 miles from any road. I started hearing voices drifting up with the wind from the reservoir side. This is odd to me, as this was a very remote location, and that summer I had only encountered 2 other hikers, although, truth be told, I had never ventured onto the reservation. I discovered evidence of past illegal pot grows in the area further down the slope on the wilderness side. Black plastic tubing and trash. Nothing that I thought was active. Anyway, when the voices started, I could tell they weren't speaking English, and it sounded like maybe they were partying. Then I heard it. A blood-curdling scream. It was so loud and lasted so long that I thought a woman was being murdered or tortured. I was immediately on edge and made sure my radio was working, and it was not. I had an extra battery that was also dead. Even though I had grabbed them both off the charger that morning, I had not turned my radio on. Shit. The voices and screams continued. I couldn't believe my ears. I consider myself a skilled woodsman with decent experience, as well as prior military service. I guess I was trying to rationalize what I was hearing and thought perhaps there was some kind of ceremony taking place on the reservation. Something outside my culture that I didn't understand. The next scream I heard didn't come from the reservation though. It came directly below me on the wilderness side. I felt extremely uneasy and was surrounded at this point. I had an overwhelming urge to leave, but decided to stick it out due to my still limited vision. It was windy. It was a windy night and several fire-killed conifer snags had come down in close proximity to my makeshift camp. I didn't think this was odd at the time, as I was focused on the vocalizations, and the overheard hazard was the primary reason I would normally not camp in that saddle. Voices and screams continued through the night, sometimes getting louder, sometimes fading off. I felt like they were covering incredible distances given the terrain. I did not sleep. I was clutching a hand tool and could not believe what was happening. The next morning at first light, packed my gear and left. Needless to say, folks back at the station were surprised to see me. I was in rough shape and told my supervisor that I had needed to report a potential rape or violent crime that might have occurred the night before. I relayed my story, but was feeling less and less confident in what I had heard the night before. I was exhausted and wanted to sleep. After chatting with the district wildlife biologist, he played a series of cougar mating calls for me in an attempt to identify what I had heard. Part of my story was that I didn't think the sounds were human. People were looking at me sideways at this point, and I took the opportunity to identify the sounds I heard as similar to the ones he played. However, that is not what I heard on the mountain that night. Thanks for all you do. I wish you remain anonymous. Okay, man, no problem. We got you. Thanks for the email. And like I said a dozen times or more before, you went out of your way, you found this channel, and you went out of your way to email me, us, all the people through me. You know what it was. You already know. A big question is why do those so-called biologists or so-called superiors don't want anything to do with the topic, don't want to acknowledge or speak of it, right? It reminds me too, I'll probably explain in one of the other videos that are on the missing SD card is the wildlife biologist who originally contacted me, shared that he had a experience in Clem2 BC, and I was looking forward to talking to him on video, which he agreed to, but then unfortunately he couldn't make it out with the trip this last week with the other biologist, and he had another guy replace him. And I did ask everybody about it, not too enthusiastically, just kind of doing it mildly. And I think I mentioned in one of the videos, I did too, the other video, that one guy on the boat was coincidentally the guy that took that video near Squamish, Tricuni Peak, Sasquatch. And he definitely wasn't enthusiastic on the topic. None of them weren't. So I let that go by. No sense in talking to people that aren't into it. And the fact that they're wildlife biologists doesn't mean shit to me. Doesn't mean shit, especially after spending 3 or 4 days with them and me being in the outdoors all the time, them having that Western education system badge, being called a biologist. They didn't know shit. It's amazing how many things they just did not know shit about, which was very surprising to me. I'm like, what? I can't believe you're asking me this. Or I couldn't believe they actually didn't know about this or that, which is just basically standard outdoor frickin' knowledge, but they didn't know. Anyway, that's a whole nother topic. I'll stop myself from babbling right now, but I've known many wildlife biologists in the past, and believe me, the Western education title does not mean shit when it comes to the actual real world. It doesn't mean shit to me anyway. We're all toddlers on this planet as far as I'm concerned, toddling along trying to figure out shit. All right, let's look at this one. Slaps on my roof. A long one, but worth the time. All right. Steve, I know grammar. LOL. I finally taken the time to write to you. It's super long, but I know it's totally worth everyone's time. It's been many months since I've been wanting to write, but I've had more experiences along the way to share. I want to keep it short, but also give enough description to help with understanding. Let's start. All right. Name's Carlos, I'm 34, currently living in Ocala, Florida. I'm not a hunter, but I have gone turkey hunting once. I love the outdoors, but I hardly go out to enjoy it. I recently gave my life back to God again about 8 years ago. I have a family, 2 beautiful little girls, and one hasn't started crawling yet. I love being a dad. Aliens. All right. Now, years ago, guessing like 6 question mark, I was looking into the whole Nephilim thing and finally came to the conclusion that aliens were actually demonic beings. So upon this enlightenment, I made a serious inquiry with God. As I was thinking about all this, I stepped outside to pray. At the time, I was living in Tulsa, Oklahoma, right in the city. Anyway, I stepped out of my apartment and was praying to God. I was saying something like, God, you've shown me this truth, and it reflects what the Bible says. I've seen many videos about UFOs, and I can't tell which ones are real because they all look fake. If this is true, that these beings are in fact demonic in nature, then can you please show me one? In Yeshua's name, I pray, Amen. Yeshua is Hebraic pronunciation of Jesus. Immediately after my prayer, I looked into the night sky and thought I saw a shooting star appear, but I noticed it wasn't one because it was moving slower than one. Then it took a right-angled turn and then vanished. It did not curve its path into the turn. It was a sharp right-angle turn. The UFO looked like a single white light, like a star without twinkling. I worked in aviation, went to an aviation college for avionics, and worked at the airport after graduation. I know aircrafts, and this was something else. The timing of God answering my prayer was immaculate. I don't normally get a clear and immediate answer just like that, but at times He does bless me with these instances. Little People, Oklahoma. My wife told me the story of an interesting find her mom had many years ago. It was right after they had bought their current home. Her mom was baking and she left the flour on the floor. She had to clean up the next day. Morning came around with a chilling surprise. There was tiny footprints in the flour. There was only one set of footprints. There was some prints that was clear and some weren't, some were half. My wife said she tracked the trail of prints down. My wife said she taped the trail of prints down to preserve it for years. Her mom took a dime and placed it next to the clearest looking footprint and took a pic of it with her phone. By the time I met my wife and her family, they removed the tape with the footprints. I got to see the picture her mom had taken through, and it looks very real. It was almost exactly human-like. It had 5 toes, but they seemed bony because the joints were noticeable. You can tell it had pointed toenails because of the points at the front of the footprint. It just looked like a demonic little thing. A friend of ours is into deliverance. He used to be in the occult and turned his life around and loves it for Yeshu now. I forgot his name because I've only met him once. Anyways, we showed him the picture and said, yes, I can confirm that it was a real pic of a little person. I talked to my coworker Owen basically about everything I knew and told me he talked to Indians he knew. They told him about the little people living in a certain area of their land. He's the curious type and went to check it out. He went out there and couldn't find anything at all. He went out there and couldn't find anything all day. Evening was closing in and he was turning around to head out. Then from the corner of his eyes, he saw a smallish being stand up from the tall, dry grass. He didn't turn to look directly at it because at that point he believed what his Indian friends told him. He said, nope, turned around and ran back to his car. He was scared, but with reason. At some time, my friend had asked me, what do I think about Bigfoot? I said, I don't know, man. If it is real, it's some sort of demonic being. My cousin asked the same thing at some point after talking to her about hidden truths. Anyway, I told her the same thing. I told my coworker, I don't know, it seems like it can be a real thing. My cousin said she believes in it. Sasquatch. I stumbled upon a video on YouTube of Something TV interviewing Scott Carpenter. The interviewer, John, had his own terrifying experience, and Scott was talking about some of his encounters. He also spoke about the scientific study of DNA that he had collected, mentioning how it really has been proven to be real. They do exist. It blew my mind. I was engulfed by Scott's videos, being slightly skeptical. He mentioned you, Steve, a couple times. I'm like, who's this guy? Looked into your videos and was interested. Eventually I came to believe it. I thought, this person, John, who interviewed Scott, is someone I feel I can trust. No, I don't know him in person, nor Scott, nor you, Steve, but each one of you seemed genuine, and the things God had revealed to me, along with me seeing a photo of a little person's footprint, I knew it was possible, so I came to believe it. And that is perhaps around the time it started. Uh-oh. When I started getting visited unknowingly, only once I have almost attempted to go out into the woods in search of these beings. And I was outside at the edge of the forest where people go hunting, the place where I shot my turkey. I thought of my family and stayed in the car and turned around. Oblivious was I. This is all within a year, maybe more. Weird things was happening. Once I took my dog outside at night right beside my house so she can do her business. I was standing out there for a long while, frustrated that she wasn't going. Then all of a sudden I was afraid. I use quotation marks on afraid because I wasn't, but my body felt like it was. I had no clue where it was coming from. I looked all around and didn't see anybody or anything. It was the strangest sensation. I was really feeling afraid, but I had no reason to be. But my body was feeling this strong enough for my body to tremble. That's creepy, isn't it? But I was pretty calm in my mind and stayed around waiting for my dog to poop already. After writing this down, I think I realized she was too nervous to do anything because I remember her pacing around. So around this time, it was fall, and we'd like to open the sliding door of our room to let the cool air come in. I can't remember when it started, but man, I smelled butt. At first I asked my wife if she had farted. She said no. Then I asked if our daughter farted. She said no again. No farts were heard, but man, did it smell like it. I noticed later in the night after closing the sliding door that it was coming from outside because it was stronger as I stood by the door, wondering if someone was having plumbing problems nearby. Next day I assumed I'd see some sort of truck by our house for a plumbing issue at some neighbors, but nope. Night after night I'd smell the same stinky butt smell every time we opened the sliding door. As I was contemplating where the source of the smell was, I came to the realization of what it could be. Sitting up on my bed, I had a hard lump in my throat. I told my wife I think I know what's with the smell because I had kept learning new things from Scott and you guys about what they are. I told my wife it's Sasquatch. She believes in me, but still she's a bit skeptical and sighed with a smile, shaking her head playfully. We researched the red-haired giants in the Middle East, aliens and UFOs, the little people in the boonies of Oklahoma. Now the redneck stinky squatches is in our midst. Anyways, I didn't pay much of my mind on them. One night I was playing a video game with my headset. My wife was behind me on the bed on her phone. After some time, we all heard a loud crashing sound as if someone fell down the stairs. 3 strange things happened. I wasn't myself because in any other instance, I would have immediately jumped out of my chair to go check it out, but I didn't. And I took my time to get up, as if it was no big deal. It sounded like a bookcase fell. 2, we found absolutely nothing that caused that noise. Absolutely nothing. 3, the pinpointing the source of the noise was the weirdest. My wife said it sounded like someone had fallen down the stairs. I thought I was in the room adjacent to ours. At this time, we're staying with my parents. My mom said she thought it came from outside. She said my dog was barking a lot after the noise. That's where I had another lump in my throat. My dog hardly barks at people. That's when I realized that it was the stink butt squatch that slapped the roof above my room. From the roof to the bottom of the floor. That wasn't something a normal human can do. And sprint so quickly out of there without my dad catching them. He did look out the window and saw nothing. I took a flashlight and looked around my parents' house. My mom thought maybe it was people playing a prank, but I knew it wasn't. I just remembered something. One morning I was going to work. I commute an hour for work, and I usually leave around 5 a.m. It's still dark out. One morning I stepped outside and heard a loud noise. It sounded like a siren. It made me confused. I'm like, huh? I questioned the day. It wasn't Wednesday. In Oklahoma, they tested the siren system every week on Wednesday at noon o'clock. Then I thought it was way too early for that. It did sound very similar to a tornado siren, not an emergency vehicle or a police type siren. After some thought, I finally figured it was a squatch. Which brings me to another time, or more like a series of similar events. So on my commute to work, I drive beside the Ocala National Forest and swampland around Gainesville. I would take this exit out of the highway and onto 441 North, and I would have the drive through some woods before going on to 441. I remember thinking, I wonder if this is a good spot for Sasquatch to peek out and wave hi to me. Anyway, I finally turned onto 441/301, whatever it's called. As I turned on into the road, I remember hearing a clink on my windshield. I'm like, huh? There's no one in front of me to kick up rocks on my car. Nor was there any trees above me because the tree line is about 30 feet away from the road, and I was on the inner lane of the highway. I didn't think about it much. This happens again though. Another day, another rock. It sounded slightly bigger. I was kind of pissed. Kind of. I'm like, what the heck is going on? Is this a Sasquatch? I didn't think too much about it. Yet for the third time, an even bigger rock was thrown at my windshield and I got pissed. I remember thinking out to them, saying something like, quit throwing rocks at my car. I rebuked them in Yeshua's name, and this never happened again. One day I moved out of my parents' house, and one night I was dropping off my dad's trailer. My wife and I got out of the car to give hugs, and man, that stinky butt smell was retching the air again. I'm standing in front of the house with my wife, and suddenly we both smelled this Sasquatch nasty. I'm like, dude, come on, go take a shower. Get out of here. I thought about rebuking it, but didn't because I was curious. We went inside and said byes and whatnot. We came back outside and it was still smelling like butt. I think I was holding my daughter and decided to rebuke it in Yeshua's name. It seemed as if the smell was slowly leaving. Oh, I almost forgot. I saw him. I actually saw one of these beings. So back when I was living with my parents, often enough we have the sliding door open for the breeze. One day I was feeling uneasy about our visits and I was going to tell my wife to make sure the sliding door was closed with the curtain covering the glass, but I never did and forgot. I think I'd fallen asleep before her and she was feeling uncomfortably warm in the night. So at some point she opened wide the curtain and slid the door open for the fresh air. She left the sliding screen door closed to keep the bugs out. What happened was exactly what I didn't want, yet it happened. So, in the wee hours of the morning when the sun is starting to rise, where there is barely light in the sky, I woke immediately to look out the glass freaking door only to see this freaking Sasquatch out of the corner of my eye, who was slightly bent over and backed off quickly, straightening himself out of the way of sight. It happened so quickly, almost literally within half a second. Steve, this is the only time in my life I was glad to have poor eyesight. I saw him barely, but I did. I wanted to doubt myself, but then I thought, why would I have waken up for the very reason to look directly in the direction of the thing? It was staring me down as I slept. You know the feeling of being followed. That feeling was strong enough for me to wake up and go see what was looking at me. I was freaked out, a bit, and angry. But then I thought God has my back and felt at peace again, especially after closing the sliding door and curtain and a small prayer. But Steve, the exact thing happened after I moved to my current place. When all the lights are off in my room, there's only the light that barely comes in through the blinds. But this night was different. My wife moved something on the desk in front of the window, and the blinds moved to one side, leaving a crack of light streaming through to my side of the room. I looked at the wall beside me and the stream of light hitting it, thinking, I hope I didn't see anything move to obscure the light. The same feeling and sensation happened, same everything. About 2 or 3 a.m. I woke up with a quickness to see a shadow move out of the way of the light. I didn't look at the window, but the light shining on the wall. Yes, in the corner of my eye I saw the light being obscured, yet as I faced the wall, nothing was there, but the same crack of light streaming through. I prayed and rebuked it and went back to sleep, LOL. Even before this event, I felt like it was going to be a normal thing now, the club of no return. Steve, there's so much more, and I'm sorry / not sorry that this is so long. I just haven't heard a story like mine, and it really does me good to write this out. I tell people what I've seen and believe, but only to people I feel won't ridicule me and think I'm crazy. Sadly, it feels better to talk to strangers and family. I like to talk about the sixth sense. I want to talk to you about the weird things that's happened with me on this subject, along with some facts and opinions I'd like to share that I think is helpful. I'd give a certain perspective, you know. Thanks for your platform, Steve. I'd be interested in talking to you once your studio is up and running. I forgot to mention I interviewed my wife, haha. Turns out she has her own crazy, alarming Sasquatch experiences. I can share those. Northeastern Oklahoma, by the border of Arkansas. Near there is where she used to live. Sound familiar? All this info is why I haven't written to you earlier. There's too much. Anyway, take care, man. Wish I can join you on your hunting trips. I'd really love to do that and eat some good game. Stay safe, Steve. Share this. Okay, man. Gotcha. Thanks for the number. Contact the story. Welcome to the club. Now, and I'm sure that we'd be interested to hear your wife's experiences, and maybe she might want to write them in if she's troubled by them. Maybe she might feel better, possibly, if she shares them with us. Well, I don't feel like I'm reading that good today. Maybe because I've been away for a handful of days bouncing on the water, not getting proper sleep. I don't know. I don't know what. What was I going to tell you though? I did listen to somebody, and I believe it's worthy of sharing and forwarding on to all of you. I don't have any reception here, so I'll have to do that once I go in, and I'll possibly share that on the next video I get. Email shares out to you guys. I'll share that video. I listened to it thoroughly, and from what I've learned from all of you and the First Nations elders, I am now convinced that this video that I've come across is very worthy of your time, if you're interested. All right, if you're seeking the truth and getting past the bullshit wall, like I am, you'll be interested to hear it. Now let's get another one shared here. It's titled My Experience. Dear Steve, my name is Brian. You can use my name. I'd like to begin by saying I love your channel and I love your no BS policy. You and I see eye to eye on a lot of things that you randomly rant about. Well, no doubt, man. Like this channel collects the similar alike people. I'm an outdoorsman as well. I love being in the woods. I love hunting and fishing, etc. However, unlike yourself and a lot of the people that email you, I actually dream of one day seeing one of these beings. Not for fame or anything like that. I just want confirmation for myself that they 100% without a doubt exist, so that the wondering if they exist or not can be laid to rest. If that makes any sense. I may regret saying that later, but who knows, LOL. Well, let me tell you something. I would wager my entire existence, strike me down dead in the dirt, including my horses and family, if I'm wrong. I mean, I've seen them 3 times, twice for sure, maybe 3 times. They are very, very real. Very real. Try to get unstuck from that quagmire so that you can shoot up faster. All right, my man? They are very real. Try not to get stuck. Anyway, although I've never seen one, I think I may have already unknowingly had an experience. I can't say one way or the other. I'd like to share my story, as it may help someone else from the area where my experience took place and come forward with their story. It may also help someone find a puzzle piece they were looking for. So here it goes. When I was in my late teens, I lived in northwest Montana. Sometime between 2010 and 2012, I was hunting with my stepdad on Forest Service land in Upper Whitefish. It was an evening hunt, probably between 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. Weather was nice, no wind, sun setting to the west. The area we were hunting in, I knew like the back of my hand. I've been hiking, hunting, and even camping in the area numerous times over the years. I knew it very well. It was a heavily wooded area, yet very open under the canopy of the trees. You could see quite a ways in every direction for the most part. My stepdad and I had split up to see if we could push some deer toward each other, and had planned to meet up farther up the trail. As I was walking along and knew exactly where I was, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, the hair stood up in the back of my neck. I stopped walking. I did a 360-degree look around myself in all directions. Montana is bear and cougar country, so naturally, first I thought that might have been what it was, but as I looked around, there was nothing to be seen. I'd also noticed that there was no ambient noise. It was suddenly very quiet. The forest sounds had stopped. No birds, no breezes, nothing. Then, a very heavy feeling of disorientation and fear came over me. I literally all of a sudden had no idea where I was. I felt the strong feeling of being watched, but couldn't see anything watching me. I began to feel a bit of panic at this point. I was essentially alone, didn't know how far away my stepdad was or even which direction he was. I felt the urge to run, but the survivalist in me knew that would be a bad idea. I knew that if a cougar or even a bear was stalking me, which is a high probability, running would definitely be the worst thing to do. They say that if a cougar's stalking you, you'll never see it till it's literally on your face. That's something I wasn't prepared to experience. I sat down at the base of a tree and weighed out my options. I was carrying a 30-06 bolt action, and I knew if something came at me, I only had one shot. It had to count. I only had a few options. Number one, wait for whatever it was to come after me and try to get a shot off at it, knowing I'd probably wouldn't have enough time to jack another round in before it got me. Number two, fire a shot in the air. I knew my stepdad was nearby somewhere, and if I fired a shot, he'd definitely hear it and come running thinking I got a deer. Number three, run and hope that whatever his thing was, whether it was a bear or a cougar, which would probably take chase after me like a house cat chasing a mouse. After a minute or so of thinking and surveying the area in all directions for any sign of anything, I said to myself, F it. I chose the later of the three and fired a shot into the air, which alarmed my stepdad, and he came running. Once he reached me, the feeling of being watched dissipated. Whatever was out there must have decided it wasn't a good idea to do whatever it was thinking it was going to do. Now that there was two of us instead of just me. After this experience, my hunt was over. We still had a little shooting light before the sun set, but I had no desire. I was still shaky from the experience. I wouldn't be able to get an accurate, ethical shot at anything anyway. We hiked back out of the woods, and I explained what had happened to my stepdad. We hiked back out of the woods, and I explained what had happened to my stepdad. To this day, we have no idea what caused me to suddenly feel what I did in the woods that day. I always chalked it up as a mountain lion or bear stalking me. But after watching your channel, hearing the stories of other people experiencing similar things as I did, I've concluded that I may have been a victim of infrasound or maybe mind speak. I've learned from watching your videos that Sasquatches are able to use infrasound or mind speak to disorient you, put messages in your mind, and force you to leave the area in which they are inhabiting, etc. On an unrelated note, while I was living in that area of Montana during those years previously mentioned, I had heard that a Sasquatch was sighted in the Martin Creek area, just north of where I had my experience, probably within 15 miles as a crow flies. The Martin Creek area is a heavily wooded, dense forested area, perfectly suitable for one of these beings to reside and not be bothered. Whether it was the same being I experienced is debatable. I'm not sure I'll ever know the answer. I hope you get a chance to read this email. If you do, thank you for sharing. I love your channel and watch it all the time. I also like to thank you for giving people a spot to share their experiences without judgment or ridicule. And I'd also like to thank everyone for sharing your experiences. Thanks to you guys, I've gained a few pieces to my puzzle. I wish you the best, Steve. Thanks again. P.S. I love your Camaro, man. What a bitchin' ride. Okay, thanks, man. Thanks for that email. And I hope that you can possibly accept the testimonies of your neighbors, me being one of them. All right, that this is very real, very, very real. It's not going away. It's always been present. For some unknown reason, we have been conditioned to keep our mouths shut about the truth of many topics, and I don't know why. I kind of got an idea why, but it's very, very frustrating. It's not fair, and it needs to be stopped, right? We all deserve a fair crack at gaining as much honest knowledge as we possibly can in this lifetime and living as absolute free as we were intended to be, living freely. At least, I hope we're intended to be free souls on this planet, but so far it's not proving to be so free, right? And that's why we're here, to get to the bottom of the bullshit, get the honest truth out, and find out more about us and what the hell is actually going on. But anyway, welcome to the club of no return, in a way, right? Be safe out there, man. The others, my experience, is the title of this email to us. Hi Steve, I hope this email finds you well, and I have the correct address. Nailed it. Excuse me. I just randomly saw a couple of your videos on YouTube, the Bigfoot ones, and yes, I subscribed. Excuse me. I want to share with you something I've never told anyone before. I felt wrong. It felt wrong until now. Plus, you've heard so many stories like this, you're probably one of the only people who would believe it anyways. We're the crazy ones, right? Although, well, hold on, this gets pretty deep. All right, here we go. Hopefully I'll read nice and smoothly. I was pretty young, about 12, when I had my encounter. To be honest and fair, as a young girl, I had quite the imagination, and I'm still very creative. But I also spent lots of time alone, being the only girl in the family. Regardless, I know my experience was not only real, but truly amazing. I was born and raised in Minnesota. I will never leave. I love it here. I love the outdoors, anything hunting, fishing, four-wheeling, jet skis, snowmobiling. I garden, you get it. Anyways, my parents would take me and my 3 brothers on a camping trip every summer to Grand Marais National Park up by Lake Superior in an area known as the Gunflint Trail. This was raw camping. I'm talking tents, bathing in the river, fishing for dinner, all that. Like I said, I was an adventurous and precocious child. Being the only girl, sometimes I'd wander through the woods, usually with a family Dalmatian by my side, Annie. Well, it was this summer that 90s movie, The Blair Witch Project, came out. So I started to pretend one day that I was the witch of the woods. I started moving rocks and sticks. I carved my initials in some trees with my pocket knife, etc. And I realized that I wandered a little too far from the campsite when Annie didn't want to follow me anymore. She just stopped and started to whimper. So naturally, I started walking her back. As soon as I turned around, I heard something in the woods move, like someone was watching me and didn't want to get caught. The energy did feel slightly eerie now that I think about it, but fearless me figured it was just another animal, so I kept walking. Then I heard what sounded like a child crying. I looked back quickly, but it was no child. I caught something moving and we made eye contact and both froze for a few minutes, maybe moments. Sorry, my brain just went off there. Then I heard what sounded like a child crying. I looked back quickly, but it was no child. I caught something moving and we made eye contact. And both froze for a few minutes, maybe moments. It felt like a long time. I was locked in on something almost human. It had a humanish, furry face. It was very tall as a moose or a bear on its hind legs for sure. Yet, as it moved through the trees, I didn't see its legs or arms. It was like a floating head from what I could make out. I wasn't afraid, even as it watched me from the trees. I'll never forget its eyes. I also remember clear communication and its thoughts going through my mind that I don't think could have come from me. More on that later. It was almost like it wanted me to come towards it or wanted to tell me something. Maybe even protect me from something, I don't know. But I was very drawn to it. I would have gotten closer, but my dog wasn't having it. She was growling like I'd never seen before. Sometimes I wish I would have just let my dog run back alone so I could connect with this creature. But we ran and eventually got back safe. However, I think it followed me. The dog's never wrong. Now, we had 3 days / 2 nights of camping left. I heard these cries calling out almost all of that same night, but no one else in my family heard it when I brought it up at breakfast, so I shrugged it off. The following day, I was washing something for my mom in the river, and a moose came about 50 feet from me to get a drink from the river. But this moose was different. Trust me, I've seen a lot of them up there. It had really long hair in weird places, like patches of fur. And it stopped before leaving, turned to me, and held eye contact with me for an uncomfortable amount of time. Then it just walked back to the trees. So what, right? A shedding moose, probably? However, it had the exact same eyes as my beastly friend in the forest. It felt like it came to say a sad goodbye. This creature only made itself known to me in the river, and was the last time I saw it. I hope for the next few summers I'd see it again, but no luck. It kind of makes me feel special sometimes, like we understood each other. both just taking a peaceful little vacation into the woods. I hear the other people say they were terrified and they felt threatened or aggression, but I think it all depends on who you are and what your intentions are during these encounters. They don't seem to like men, cameras, electronics, hunters, or anyone who does damage to the earth. I believe these beings can shapeshift, have telepathic powers, and can appear and disappear at will, either through jumping in and out of another dimension, or they can make themselves invisible to the human eye. Now for the messages put in my head in the forest. This is definitely my clearest memory of it all. It's hard to explain because it was somehow communicating with not just words, but pictures and emotions all at once. The basic message, and I'm definitely paraphrasing here, was, don't be afraid. We are gentle creatures that once dominated the earth, just as your kind does now. We are the same, like ancestors. Due to a devastating event, we had to leave. They were saved, but have been away for a very long time. They want to come home, but we're keeping them from doing so because they do not agree with how we live. So for now, they only get short vacations here. I saw a world much more green and lush. I felt sadness because it warned me that our world is out of balance with nature. I felt fear of a higher power, like they're no longer in control of their own destiny anymore and crave freedom. Their bodies didn't evolve like ours when they were away, but their brains and senses evolved very quickly. They can feel the plants and earth, and they know every inch of their surrounding instantly. Definitely vegetarians, but also fish, or just love water. I'm not sure on that one. Hunting and searching for them is useless because we are loud and clumsy in the forest. Any encounters with them are on their terms because they're never surprised. They sometimes scare us as on purpose for fun, and they have total control of all encounters. My thoughts on it over the last 20 years? Maybe we're the next new shiny model on the outside, but they are far more advanced within. Maybe I've never told anyone about this because I feel complete empathy and understanding for these creatures. Or maybe I'm hoping to see my friend again someday and didn't want to betray them. And maybe they just want to be left alone when they're vacationing on their home planet that was lost to them. Whew. Okay, thanks for listening. That felt good to finally share. You can share this or read it to people if you like. Just please don't share my info. You're welcome to address me as Kate if necessary. All the best, Kate. Kate, thanks for that. And you know what? For me personally, I don't know, maybe more than a handful of years previous to now times, I would probably think you were on some kind of a crack pipe, but not now. The tail end of your email I've heard way too many times, almost that identical theme to a T from various sources that I trust. So, and that all will relate to a video that I'm going to share. Maybe I can share. Obviously, I can share it in this video, right? What am I even thinking? So I was just going to show it to you guys on my phone, but there's no reception here. But I will put a link to the video I listened to, and I forget how long it is. It's over an hour and a half, or even more. And I would suggest that if you're curious, and obviously if you have that open mind, listen to it. And this was an older video too. But I think that I've just heard this theme far too many times. I've heard it far too many times from sources that are basically around the clock and not connected with each other. And it just may hold true. But again, take from it what you will or leave it, right? But anyway, I got a lot on my brain. I can't seem to relax. I got a very, very short window to get some things done before I got to take off again, as usual. It's the theme of my life. But I will be back, and if you are harboring something and is making you go through life being uncomfortable and you need to get it out, this is a good place to get it out, all right? Share it with all of us through this channel. It helps people a lot. It's helped a lot of people, including me. Anyway, I'm going to get another one of these up before I go, that's for sure, before I gotta go back out to the ocean. Be safe out there. You can email your experiences, your concerns to sharemystory@howtohunt.com, and that'll get it to me. All right? I'll be back shortly. Check this out. Dead whale. Wow, you know I gotta go check that out. Here we go. This is crazy. I don't imagine that smells very good in there. Look at that sludge. Wow. Crazy. This is a skull. It's huge. Wow. It's my foot. Huh. Tailbone, I guess. Vertebrae. It's pretty wild.